Welcome to another amazing episode of our movie. Trust me, you are going to love this one. At the end of the movie, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest releases. Just relax and enjoy. The story begins with Tinu sleeping when her dad wakes her with a call, inviting her to his birthday party. Tinu doesn't want to attend because her stepmom and stepsister will be there, but her father pleads with her to come for his sake, as he wants to spend his birthday with his entire family. After much persuasion, Tinu finally agrees to attend. The next morning, Tinu tells her friend that she needs a fiancé for her dad's birthday, so her stepmom and stepsister won't mock her for being single. Her friend suggests hiring a boyfriend. Tinu is surprised and initially objects, but after some convincing, she agrees to the plan. They meet several potential candidates, but none of them meet Tinu's standards. One is a stammerer, and another is rude and talks down to women. Tinu rejects them all, finding the situation amusing. After some time, her friend suggests that Tinu take Oscar, a male friend she recently met. Although they aren't very close, Tinu eventually decides to invite Oscar to pose as her boyfriend. Oscar agrees, much to Tinu's surprise and happiness, and she tells him to prepare as they will be leaving the next morning. Meanwhile, Tinu's stepmom and stepsister, Dami, are already at their father's house, gossiping about Tinu, calling her a party pooper. Shortly after, Dio comes downstairs and greets Dami's mom before she leaves. Dami greets Dio with a kiss and informs him that Tinu will be attending, which surprises and displeases him. Dami sarcastically declares that this will be the worst birthday party ever, leaving Dio bewildered. The next morning, Tinu and Oscar arrive at her father's house. They ask each other one more time if they are really going through with the plan. Tinu reassures Oscar that they can't turn back now since they're already at the house, and her dad will like him. They knock on the door, and to their surprise, Dami and Dio answer. Dami sarcastically remarks, "I thought you lived in space since you vanished into thin air." Tinu introduces Oscar, saying, "Oscar, meet Dami, my stepsister. She's quite wild and rude." Oscar asks Dami if they've met before, as she seems familiar. Dami coldly replies, "I only know important people, not someone like you." Tinu advises Oscar to ignore her, and they both enter the house. Now you might be wondering what all this animosity is about. Let me take you back to Tinu's past. As a child, Dami always wanted everything Tinu had. Dami is Tinu's half-sister. They share the same father but have different mothers. Tinu's mom died when she was 5, and her dad remarried Dami's mom. Dami's mom never liked Tinu and constantly made Dami believe she was superior. When they were little, Dami's mom would dress Dami up for parties but would forbid Tinu from attending, instead scolding her to do house chores, making her feel bad. So, now you understand the source of all this tension. Tinu sits down with Oscar when Dio, whom she calls Jade, approaches her, saying, "So you found yourself a man. I pray you don't ruin this one." Dami, sitting nearby, adds that Tinu always ruins things before walking away with Jade, leaving Tinu hurt. You might be wondering what Jade meant by his comment. Let me tell you a little more about their past. Jade and Tinu were supposed to get married 2 years ago. The wedding preparations were in full swing when Jade received a call from someone claiming to have seen Tinu at a hotel with another man. Jade rushed to the hotel and found Tinu alone, but no man in sight. Tinu was confused and didn't understand what Jade was talking about. However, Jade accused her of lying and ended the relationship, slamming the door as he left. Later that day, there was a family meeting where Jade told Tinu's father that he was done with her because she had cheated. Tinu cried, not knowing how to explain what had happened, but Jade refused to forgive her. After the breakup, Dami's mom advised Dami to pursue Jade, as they were both after his money, delighted that Tinu was out of the picture. Dami then went to Jade's house to console him about the breakup. Dami took advantage of Jade, making him fall for her and eventually marry her, since Tinu was out of the way. She succeeded, and from that day on, they became a couple, always hanging out and spending time together. Jade finally proposed to Dami, and she happily accepted. They met with her dad to ask for his consent, although her dad was unhappy about it, since Jade was once with Tinu and now it was Dami and Jade. He had to accept their relationship because they claimed to love each other. At that moment, Tinu came downstairs and saw what was happening. She asked her dad what was going on, but her stepmom yelled at her to mind her business. Her dad then explained the situation, and Tinu felt deeply hurt and betrayed by her sister. She ran upstairs in tears. Later, her dad came to her room to talk to her, but she was furious that he gave his consent. Tinu decided to leave the house. Overhearing this, her stepmom barged into the room, yelling at Tinu to leave if she wanted to. She also insulted Tinu, calling her a prostitute who couldn't keep a man, and even insulted Tinu's late mother. This deeply hurt Tinu, and she was most pained by the fact that her father said nothing. She asked her dad to leave her room, saying she wanted to be left alone. The next day, Tinu was still feeling down at her friend's house, despite her friend's efforts to cheer her up. Her friend invited her to a birthday party, but Tinu initially refused. After some pleading, she reluctantly agreed to go, though she was still upset. At the party, her friend introduced Tinu to her client, Oscar. However, Tinu wasn't in the mood and left, leaving Oscar surprised. He asked what was wrong, and Tinu's friend quickly excused herself to check on her. She pleaded with Tinu to forget the past and move on, mentioning that it seemed like Oscar liked her. She then went to get Tinu a drink. Soon after, Oscar approached Tinu, telling her she looked familiar. Tinu denied it, but mentioned that his fragrance seemed familiar. She excused herself, saying she wanted to be left alone. However, Oscar managed to cheer her up and offered to get her a drink. He succeeded in making Tinu smile again. While they were laughing, Oscar noticed her drink was empty and offered to refill it. As he left, Tinu's friend returned, smiling, and teased Tinu, saying she saw what was happening between her and Oscar. Tinu denied it, insisting they were just joking and that she was still trying to get over Jade. Her friend advised her to forget about Jade and start fresh with Oscar before leaving again as Oscar returned. The next day, Oscar visited Tinu and they talked. Tinu shared the story of her past, explaining how she ended up at the hotel and thought it was her fiancé who came in, only to find out the next morning it wasn't him. She explained that she was drugged, but Jade didn't believe her. She also told Oscar that her ex was now getting married to her stepsister. Oscar was surprised and asked what her dad was doing about the situation. Tinu explained that her family had always taken away what made her happy, even since childhood, which made Oscar feel bad for her. The following day, Oscar and Tinu were about to go out. As they sat in his car, contemplating where to have lunch, Oscar suggested a hotel known for its good food. Tinu objected, explaining that the hotel was where the incident with Jade happened. Oscar was shocked, as he remembered going to that hotel for a business meeting that night and waking up the next morning with a random girl in his bed, having no idea what had happened. Tinu was equally surprised, realizing Oscar was the man from that night. She asked him to take her home, as she had lost her appetite. Oscar pleaded with her to discuss it, but Tinu insisted on going home. Once home, Tinu told her friend about everything. Her friend was shocked and concluded that Dami must have been behind the whole thing, though Tinu wasn't sure. The next morning, Oscar came to apologize to Tinu, even though they were both drugged. Tinu wasn't angry with him, as she understood what had happened. She told him she had made his favorite meal, and they both went upstairs. So, that's how Tinu's relationship with Jade ended, and how she met Oscar. You could say what Dami did was truly awful, taking her sister's man. But that's all in the past now, so let's focus on Tinu's present life. That same day, when Tinu went home, they all sat at the dining table. Dami's mom insulted Tinu and her fiancé, pointing out that she didn't see a ring on Tinu's hand. Oscar explained that the ring he bought for Tinu was too big, so he had to return it. Dami mocked them, saying Jade would never make such a mistake. The next day, they were having a family introduction meeting in the living room when Dami's mom asked Oscar what he did for a living. Oscar replied that he didn't have a job yet, which made Dami mock them again, saying, "A jobless man wants to get married. How cute!" But Tinu wasn't bothered, as she knew Oscar was lying. Later that day, Dami and her mom gossiped about Tinu, insulting her for stooping so low as to date a man without a job. Dami's mom then mentioned that she suspected something about Oscar, thinking there was more to his story. Dami replied that maybe Tinu had expected Oscar to lie and was embarrassed when he told the truth, then added that she was happy with Jade. Dammy went to complain to Jade about how he had been too busy working and not paying attention to her. Jade explained that he needed to close an important deal, but Dammy continued to complain. The next morning, Oscar was sitting outside when Dammy approached him and asked if she could join him. He agreed. Dammy noticed his expensive watch and asked how he could afford it. Oscar lied, saying it was fake, and Dammy mocked him again, calling him broke and questioning how he would provide for Tinu once they were married. Oscar just smiled and said nothing, and Dammy left. Dammy then told her mother about Oscar's watch, and they both became suspicious, deciding to keep an eye on him. Oscar later told Tinu what had happened, and she told him there was no need to lie. Oscar replied, "You once told me your stepmom and stepsister destroy everything you have, so the less they see, the less they can destroy." Tinu smiled and said, "You're a good man. I didn't really want to get into a relationship again, but you have a way of making me trust you." They smiled at each other and kissed. Later that day, Oscar was outside on a business call when Dammy walked by and overheard him saying someone should be fired. When Oscar noticed her, he immediately ended the call. Dammy smiled and asked who he was firing. Oscar lied, saying it was his domestic staff. Dammy was surprised, thinking it odd that someone jobless had domestic staff. She concluded that Oscar was hiding something and vowed to uncover it. Oscar replied, "Good luck on your FBI journey," and left. That same day, Jade received a call from his business partner, who informed him that they had to meet with the CEO of the company before finalizing their deal, as the CEO had the final say. Jade asked for the CEO's name, and they told him it was Oscar. Shocked, Jade quickly searched online and found out that the CEO was Tinu's fiancé, Oscar. He was stunned and immediately informed Dammy. Dammy was also surprised and felt bad, and they both decided they needed to find a way to convince Oscar to sign the contract. The next day, while Oscar was sitting in the living room, Jade approached him and brought up what he had discovered, pleading with Oscar to sign the contract. Oscar denied being the CEO and walked away, smiling, leaving Jade confused. The following morning, their father called for a family meeting. He pleaded with everyone to be at peace, saying he didn't know when his time would come and didn't want to leave knowing his family was divided. Jade apologized to Tinu and Oscar, but Tinu interrupted, saying she knew his apology wasn't sincere and that he was only apologizing because he now knew who Oscar was. Their father, surprised, asked what was going on, and Tinu explained everything. Jade then insisted that his apology was genuine, but Dammy burst out, yelling at Jade for apologizing, which angered their father. He shouted, "Enough!" and everyone quieted down. The next day was their father's birthday. As he came downstairs, they wished him a happy birthday. Dammy wasn't happy about Tinu helping to organize the event, and her irritation showed. Dammy asked her father to go upstairs, take a bath, and come back down, to which he agreed. Afterward, Tinu also went upstairs. In her room, Oscar told Tinu that Dammy had been behind the hotel setup all along. Tinu didn't understand at first, so Oscar explained that he had uncovered evidence showing that Dammy had orchestrated everything that night. He showed her a video on his phone, and Tinu was shocked. Angry, she stormed outside despite Oscar's attempts to stop her. Oscar quickly followed her outside. Tinu immediately started fighting with Dammy as she came downstairs, and Oscar quickly held her back. Hearing the commotion, their father and stepmother rushed down to separate them as their father shouted at them to stop. In her anger, Tinu explained everything to her father and showed him the proof. He was deeply disappointed in Dammy when he saw it. Oscar then managed to calm Tinu down and took her inside. Once inside, Tinu thanked Oscar for helping her uncover the truth and suggested that they leave the next day. They hugged each other, feeling relieved. The next morning, they packed their things and their father bid them farewell. He admitted that even though his birthday didn't go as planned, he was happy to see them together. He hugged Tinu. Just as they were about to leave, Jade came out and said his goodbyes. Oscar then told Jade to meet him at his office on Tuesday so he could sign the contract. Jade was thrilled, and they shook hands before Tinu and Oscar left. When Tinu and Oscar got home, Oscar asked if they could make their relationship official. Tinu smiled and agreed, and they playfully joked about rings and imagining their future together. Later that same day, Jade packed all his belongings, announcing that he was done with Dammy. He realized that Dammy's plan had been to snatch Oscar away from Tinu because of his wealth. Dammy begged him to stay, but Jade didn't listen and left. Dammy's mom came out to console her, but Dammy pushed her away, blaming her for everything. She accused her mother of making her hate her sister and causing her to lose everyone. Crying, she went inside, leaving her mother speechless and full of regret. Wow, what a hit! This story is amazing. I hope you all learned something from it. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching this incredible story in my world of movies. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more interesting and fascinating stories like this. See you in the next movie.